if, for example, you go on Netflix and you're watching the same TV series or you're watching the same film and you see a different poster for it, that's all being done on the tech side of things, the technical side of things. They're running tests to see which kind of designs and posters are capturing people's attention to actually watch the series. So I was exposed to a bit of that. I was exposed to more what you would call UX and UI design. So UX design is about the user's experience. When they go on a website, when they go on an app, whether it's to buy something, whether it's to watch something, whether it's to read something, what's the experience like for them? Are the fonts capturing their attention? Is it easy to click the buttons? Is it easy to check out when you're buying something? That's user experience. And then I also came across UI, which is user interface. So what the website looks like. Are the colors nice? Do the fonts match up? Are the different parts of the website flowing correctly? And all that contributes to how you, the user, are experiencing using the website. So I came across that first, and that's what got my attention. And because I'm very creative, I thought, okay, I want to explore this first. So as I started exploring that, I was watching loads of YouTube videos, I was going to loads of events. Then I came across other things in the tech industry like coding. And I thought, okay, cool, this sounds interesting. But growing up at school, computer science was not a subject. The closest to tech was ICT, when you had a supply teacher and, you're trying to get onto the computers and play games that you shouldn't be playing. That's as close to ICT that I got at school. I didn't do it for GCSE, I didn't do it for A-level. It wasn't a subject that was promoted or even talked about.
Sadly.
So I used to think like coding was like for nerds, everyone who plays RuneScape, all of that stuff at the time. And I thought it's just for gamers, just for nerds, for quiet people. And I didn't think it was for someone like me. So when I started to explore, I was like, oh, there's actually a lot in the tech industry. And in the UK, it's a very in-demand industry. It's growing so fast. And the cool thing is that, like, our generation, we're growing up with technology. We're not the generation where it was like no computers, no Google.
Yeah.
And it's just, now you have all of this.
Tell me about it.
My generation and you guys, we're all born into it. Like, I'm the same age as Google. So it's like,
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I should tap into this industry because I'm engaging with technology all the time, whether it's on social media, whether it's what I'm watching, whether it's the games I'm playing. So I started exploring that a bit more, and I was going to all these events, and I came across like front-end developing, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all these things, and I was like, okay, what the hell is all this? And I was watching YouTube videos on it, and I was like, okay, how do I get in? So I did, So it all came down to me wanting to do something more challenging, more fulfilling. I was trying to scramble out of the junior roles because, boy, this working world, they just want to keep you, they want you to do all the good work and all the extra work, but they just want to cap you. And it's like, well, what I'm doing and the pay is it's not matching, baby. So, I just wanted to push myself and, I love being creative, but I just wanted the whole problem. So I wanted to solve problems. I wanted to be able to be creative, but also make someone's life easier or make someone's interaction with a website or a game or something much more fun. So yeah, like I mentioned, I was exposed to UX and UI design, and yeah. So obviously I started learning the basics on YouTube. There's also a really good site that I would recommend you guys. It's very beginner friendly, called Free Code Camp. That helped me like break down the basics of coding or even just how computers work. There's also a really good site called codingacademy.com, and you can actually play around and experiment as well. And so Coding Academy, there's like a free trial, and then after a while I think you have to subscribe or something. But Free Code Camp is fully free, and you can actually code on the browser while you're following along the tutorial. So you don't need any fancy software that you have to install that takes forever, etc. And then if you're someone that likes design, you like logos, you like how things look, the colors, or even if you're like into like fashion, branding, nails, hair, whatever it is, right? I would recommend this YouTube channel called The Future. It breaks down a lot of things. It gives you like industry insights, so you get to understand how people use these skills in real life. I would really recommend that. I still watch a lot of their videos. It's very good if you're trying to like hustle, be an entrepreneur, you're trying to build up on your skills, you're trying to learn how to talk to people and network with people. I would really recommend that channel. So getting your foot in the tech industry, oh my gosh. So the biggest one is networking. Obviously, I don't have a degree, so I couldn't even like use that to boost myself. So for me, it's like I had to show them what I could do.
Yeah.
I had to like show proof, like this is what I've done, this is what I've achieved, these are the people I worked with. And so I networked a lot. And networking doesn't have to be with like super senior people, like, you know, the CEO or anything. Networking with people that are doing jobs that you like is also just as good. Sometimes you can network with your friends even. Like, I'm not the best at doing certain things, but I know my friends who are good at like admin, they're good at like accounting, they're good at like, you know, designing nails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not good at any of those things, but if I wanted to network with my friends, I can, because I have access to them and they can help me and give me advice, or they can do certain stuff for me. And if they needed someone that wanted like help with social media or marketing, or, you know, to help them with something like a coding problem, they can reach out to me. That's basic networking, right? And you do the same thing in the working world. I'm going to tell you now, like, even if you go to uni and you get your degree, you're still going to have to go out into the real world.
Yes,
and the real world is literally about what you can do and what you bring to the table, but also how you carry yourself. If you're not showing that you're eager to learn, you're eager to, you know, be mentored, etc., it's very hard for you to connect with people. So I would definitely recommend like keep an open mind, regardless of where you go, what career you choose. Doesn't matter. You need to learn how to be social to an extent. You need to learn how to be good with people, talk to people, because that all links in with networking. And I would personally say, like, just based on my career journey, a lot of the things that I've done, I'm only 22, and a lot of the things that I've done, some people have worked for like 5-6 years to get to the same place.
That's true.
And for me, it was just a matter of talking to people and connecting with the right people, and also people seeing like, oh, this girl seems very nice, like she's, you know, she's doing really well for herself. I want to know more about her. And that's when you come in and be like, okay, I can do this, 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 and that. I might not be able to do this, but I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And they're willing to help you. Trust me, guys, old people love talking about themselves, so take advantage of that. Also, there's a site called LinkedIn. I'm not gonna lie, like, I used to avoid LinkedIn so much because it's just so crammed up with information and there's all these people just bragging. But in terms of like job searching, connecting with people that are in industries that you like, it's really, really good, and it's a great way to put yourself out there. Like, I even put my YouTube videos out there, and I've connected with people that want to help me with like my content and, you know, sponsoring me and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend LinkedIn as well. It takes a while to get used to, but it's really good. Also, social media. I use Twitter quite a lot. I've connected with in fact, every single job that I've ever had, I've gone through Twitter.
Okay.
Or someone I've known on Twitter. It's a really great place to like link with people. Also Instagram as well. Like, use social media to put yourself out there and just to show people like, okay, this is what I'm like and this is what I can bring to the table. So a combination of all of those three things, you know, can be very helpful. And obviously, like, we're all in a pandemic right now, so a lot of us are working from home. A lot of you guys have been, you know, studying at home. And so the digital space, the online space, is the best way for you to network and to make those connections, because I know how hard it is for you guys at the moment, because there's a lot of like, you know, we don't actually know what's going on. So this is a great way to like make the most of that.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, Twitter, you know, it did bits for me. So I kept tweeting like, oh, I want to learn how to code. Like, how do I get into all of this? And someone actually retweeted an opportunity and then DM'd me a link to a bootcamp course. Because at the time I was still researching like, how do I get in? I saw boot camps, and boot camps in general are very, very, very expensive, and I couldn't afford that. So I was just like doing my research, trying to keep an open mind. And then someone on Twitter who was seeing me, literally a random follower, kept seeing me tweet about coding, and they're like, oh, I saw this opportunity, it's in the UK, I think you will like it. And then I got sent that, and I applied for it, and I didn't hear back for months. So as you can see, like from February to about let's say October time, I didn't actually hear much from the application, the people that were doing the application form. I was still like minding my business, doing my work and stuff and networking. So I didn't hear anything, but I still applied. And, you know, around March, May 2018, I was networking, more research. Then June, it was my final like paid project in the film industry. And so at that point, it's like, okay, now I'm unemployed. I've got bills to pay. I need to figure out where I want to go next. So I was taking on freelance projects here and there. And, you know, I was still keeping my options open. Then, like, towards the end of October into, like, early November, I get a phone call interview. They interview me and then they get back to me, like, almost immediately. And they accept me for the course. So it was run by a platform called Code First Girls. And they're trying to get more women to learn how to code and get into tech. So I did that, and the really cool thing was that this boot camp was free. It was the first time they had done anything like this, where they team up with a company and do like a 4-month intensive course. So that was really fun. It was really hard as well. Like, guys, the learning curve was mad because I went from like working on films and BBC series to
coding and being a developer.
It's very, very different.
I know.
But it's very different. And, you know, it was very intense, but I got to learn loads of new things, and after that, if you had passed your assessments, there was an opportunity to interview for some of the jobs at BT, and I did that, and then I got accepted, and that led me to getting my first tech job, which I'm in right now, in March 2019.
Wow.
So this is a bit of a breakdown with the bootcamp that I did. So the first chunk was like web development, so that's building your website. So HTML, which is like the skeleton of the website, CSS, what makes it look all pretty, and JavaScript, which gives it functions, so you can add like moving images, slides, etc. That was mainly web development. Then we were introduced to Python, which is a programming language that's used for so many different things. It's really popular, and it's probably one of the more beginner-friendly programming languages after JavaScript. So we did that, and then we also touched on Flask, which is like, how to explain Flask? It's a way to structure how the back end, which is like the engine at the back, interacts with the front end, which is like what you guys see.
Yeah.
It's like a framework that works really well with Python. Then we got introduced a little bit to SQL, which is used for like structuring data, storing data, visualizing data. It's a data sort of programming. I want to call it a language, but sort of not. But anyways, then we also got introduced a little bit of cybersecurity, just like the absolute basics. But it was literally a week long. But it was quite interesting to see what it's like. And it was very interesting to find out that not everything about cybersecurity is to do with hacking.
Yeah.
And hacking is actually not as exciting as I thought it would be.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but it was interesting. We got to like get an insight into something new. Yeah. Then around February 2019, we got the assessment and job interviews, and I got accepted for a role that I'm in now. And then, in March, I started my role, and then we had a last module, which we had to do on the job, which is called Agile. Agile is a way of working, so it's a more efficient way of working. So traditionally, you have someone that comes with you and like, I want you to build me this. And then you plan and plan and plan and plan, and then you do it, and then you give it back to the person that asked for it. But then that person will be like, actually, I didn't want this anymore. Actually, I don't like this, change that. That is like the traditional way of working, and that's called a waterfall method. Yeah. And the issue with that is you'll spend so much time planning and building, but you don't get the constant feedback from the customer. And that meant that it would cost you even more money and more time by the time you give it to the customer, because they're now changing their mind on a lot of things, or they want to add this and that. And so that way of working isn't the most efficient way for companies. So Agile was introduced, and Agile is a process where the customer sends you what they want, and then there's someone that will break down what the client wants into requirements, and then that gets discussed and reviewed by the team, and then we go back to the customer and be like, hey, we're just clarifying what you wanted. Is this what you want? Would you like to add this, or do you want to take this, or how do you want this to be done? You clarify that, and then the first phase, you give it to the developers. They start building features bit by bit, and then you go back again, you review it, then you show it to the customer, and it goes on like that. So throughout the whole time you're building this stuff, you're building the product, the customer is always in the loop, the product manager is always in the loop, the developers are always getting updates on things. So there's this constant updating and iterating over. So then by the time it gets to the final product, you've already been communicating with the client over and over again. So it kind of avoids or reduces the amount of, oh, by the way, I wanted this, or by the way, I wanted that. And that, for a lot of companies, it saves the time, it saves the money, it means that they can take on more projects, etc. So that's just a quick summary of Agile. And obviously, it made sense to do that module on the job because it's in a working environment.
That's correct.
So, yeah, I've broken down like what my role looks like. So my job as a software engineer, I do both front end, so what the user sees, and also the back end, which is like the engine, like the stuff that you don't see, but it involves interacting with the website or the app or whatever. So I broke this down. This is from a Google Doc that I put together, which I'm happy to share with yourself.
Yep.
You guys can access it. I shared it with pretty much everyone on the internet. So this is how I broke it down. So you've got the base, you've got HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Bootstrap is like a framework that works well with HTML, CSS. So it just makes a lot of things easier, like creating tables, creating charts, etc. And then within JavaScript, there's like frameworks that you can use. And the framework that we tend to work with at my job is called Angular. It just makes a lot of like functions that you use and ways you do things in JavaScript much easier. You don't have to do as much like hard coding, etc. And then you've got the backend. So Python is like a scripting language. So that's the main backend programming language that we use. Then I mentioned Flask earlier, which works well with Python. And then PyMongo is something that we used in a few projects to help structure our databases and how we deal with the data that we're given. And then MongoDB is where you would store that database. Yeah. So that was like a quick summary. And it's so funny because when I put this together, best believe the project that we're taking now, a lot of this has changed. And that's one thing when you're working in a tech job like software engineering. New projects, you're coming across new problems, you're coming across new things, new ways of working. So a lot of these things are constantly changing. And that's the cool thing about the tech industry. We all know like how quickly technology changes, and you know, whether it's the new iPhone coming out, whether it's the new updates, new games are coming out, whatever it is, like technology is always changing. And that's the same thing within a tech job like myself, like the one I do right now. So even just looking at this diagram, there's a whole bunch of new frameworks that I'm working with right now. There's some things that I'm no longer using as much. So like MongoDB, PyMongo, I'm not using that for the next project that we've been given this week. So that's the cool thing about the job. You're always on your feet. There's always things to learn. And you're always talking to different people. And the skills that you're building are so transferable. Like I can go into a project manager role and I can transfer some of the skills that I've picked up in a software engineering role and do that. I can pick up some of the skills that I've got from front end and do a UX or UI design job because I understand what the users want and I understand like what makes a good user experience, and on top of that I can actually code it. So it's like you're always picking up so many soft skills as well. Like you're picking up teamwork skills, how you communicate with people, how you communicate with clients, how you manage like the business aspects of things. So it's really great. And yeah, so these are some of the things that I picked up on. I did a YouTube video on this a while ago, which I'm redoing for a number of reasons. But basically, with the tech industry, like you have to understand, like programming is hard. Some people find it easier than others. Like coding, programming for me, like it did not come easy to me because it was a different set of skills, a different way of thinking than what I'm used to when I was in the film industry or when I was working with creative brands. So if you find coding hard, that's not an issue. Like it's not the end of the world. Like it is meant to be hard to an extent. It's normal. It's a new skill you're learning. Of course, it's going to be hard at the beginning. Coding is a bit like maths. I'm not saying that you have to be like a maths whiz. Maths is one of my worst subjects. I hate it so much. But I like maths. Maybe it's for you, but for me, I just liked PE. I like the more creative subjects. But what I do love about maths is the problem solving. I like how there's a method to work something out, and you get your answer.
So
Problem
you
solved.
don't like fluency or reasoning?
I think that's the parts I do like.
Okay,
But
you
the
got away
whole
with that.
simultaneous equations, quadratic formulas.
I'm confused now.
Oh, what would you like me to clear up?
I'm not sure now.
Okay, I'll try to explain it to you, and then if you have any questions, I'm happy to break it down. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. So, coding is a bit like maths because when you're coding, you're solving problems. You've got a list of instructions in each line of code, and you want it to do X, Y, or Z, right? So, when I say coding is a bit like maths, it's like when you're working out a formula, when you're, simplifying a fraction, you're creating you're creating a bunch of steps to get to your final answer. And that's basically what programming is. Ultimately, you're telling the computer what to do. You want them to, spin up this green box on the website at this to the left, do that for me. Oh, you want to print out this statement so I can see it on the screen? Okay, cool. These are the steps. So that's what I mean by coding is a bit like maths. You don't have to be the best maths whiz ever, but you do need to understand problem solving, Kid mentioned, like reasoning. You need all of those skills, and that links a bit like what you would learn in maths. So does that clear it up a bit? Or is there something you want?
Cookie 64, are you fine with that explanation?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me know if you have any questions, okay?
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
No, it's cool. This is one of the things that I love about kids. Like, they just ask. Like, I prefer. That's another good skill to have in the tech industry. Just ask. That's one of the things I actually struggled with. Like, I used to think, oh, if I ask a question, that means I'm stupid or something. And it's like, no. People are happy to explain things. Like, people are happy to break things down for you. It's their job. So, I don't want anyone here to feel like you can't ask me any questions. The questions you probably have, I had them as well once upon a time. So
But just to warn you, I've got lots of questions.
I'm happy with that.
Okay. All right then.
You don't have to know everything about the language you're using. So I don't have to know every single thing about Python. I don't have to know every single thing about all the details of web design. Because another cool thing about the tech industry, you're going to have to get really good at Googling things because things break, you get stuck, and
you've got to
Google's
fix
like
it.
a great resource. The internet is a great resource because people also have those problems and they always have solutions. Take them, adjust them, make them fit to what you're trying to solve. Boom, you're done. So yeah, don't stress yourself too much if you're learning how to code and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. You probably know a lot more than you think. It takes time. And another thing, not all tech jobs involve coding. So a lot of people on my team don't actually code. There's only about like 4 of us or 5 of us that actually do coding. There are other people, they do like project managers. You've got people that test the code, so they're just literally running tests. You've got people that are talking to the client, so that's the business side of things. You've got people that are technical writers, so they're writing content to actually promote the product that is about to be launched. You've got people that literally just manage the team, like just to make sure everyone's meeting deadlines. There's so much, even things like just designing the logo, designing like the look and feel of the website to then give to the developers so we know what colors to work with when we're coding certain features. There is a lot in the tech industry, and it's so big, and there's so many jobs you can be doing that are in demand, and you will never have to like learn a single line of code. That exists as well.
Oh wow.
Another thing also is it's good to understand a bit about how computers work. I don't think us lot have to worry too much about it, like our generation per se, but that's one thing, like I just wanted to know a bit more detail, like what's going on behind the scenes, like when I click on a website or when I click checkout, what's happening, like programming wise, what's going on, like what requests are being made, how they're getting all this information when I put in my card details and then save it and then put my shipping address. I just wanted to understand that a bit more because it helped me a lot with my job. And last but not least, you're going to learn most of the things on the job. Like, even if you do all the tutorials, you do all the self-learning, you do all the cool programming, and you build games, etc. You're still learning, yes, but like with any other job or any other industry, a lot of the learning you do is on the job, and they don't tell this to students from the beginning. Like, that's one thing I had to learn, because even if I knew my stuff, it's like you revise everything for the exam, but because you've never used that in a real life situation,
Yeah, that's true. You
don't know
forget
how
them.
to
Yeah,
apply it just
it all
yet.
goes
And
off.
you're only ever going to learn. And you're only ever going to learn that when you're actually in that situation.
That's true.
It's like when you're learning about percentages at school, you're just doing it because you need to pass your test. Like you've got like a maths question where you have to find the percentage of X, Y, Z when there's interest applied, blah blah. Until when you revise that, you're revising it so you can get to the answer and get your 5 marks, right? But when you now apply it into the real world, like when you're, I don't know, if you wanted to buy a house or if you wanted to pay for something in installments, that's when you're like, oh, okay, that's how compound interest works.
True.
That's how you work out 5% when you get a discount code for, you know, your favorite pair of trainers. Okay, makes sense. So that's a bit the same. That's the same way of like when you're trying to enter a new industry or a job, you're going to learn a lot of those things because you're in that environment where you actually have to use what you know.
Yep.
So that's the same thing in the tech industry. And yeah, this needs to change. I've changed my channel name, but anyways, those are just my socials. You can connect with me. You can check out some of my work. I do like a lot of like on Instagram. I do like a lot of like flashcard versions of my notes because a lot of people ask for that. And yeah, I do YouTube. My YouTube channel name is Develop with Amina.
Okay.
But I'm sure it will come up even if you search that up. And I probably will email you the links to my Google Docs because I have my generic one, which is breaking down my job. But I also have like a parent and child friendly version that I created recently. So I'll send that over too, so you guys can get started. There's a bunch of games you can build on there, and it's super like beginner friendly. And yeah, do you guys have any questions?
Anyone got questions? I've got some people stuck on Teams. I'm not sure how they got into Teams right now, but
oh, okay.
Maybe the people didn't know how to get on.
Right. He says he's waiting, but I can't see it. Anyways, have we got any questions? Let's carry on. I'll try and get them in a minute. Any questions? Anyone with questions? She said a lot of things, and I've got lots of questions for her myself. So if you
guys,
haven't got a,
if you want an insight from someone that's closer in age, like I'm here.
Yeah, I guess that's
I have to learn the hard way.
That's true.
Ask all the questions.
Yeah.
There are no dumb questions or anything like that. This is an industry that you guys haven't gone into yet. So you know, it's normal to go for it.
My question is that have you ever been different countries for like movies?
No, I wish. I've never in the budget. I wish. It would have been so nice. But cool fact, a lot of the films that you think are filmed in certain locations are actually not. Like sometimes you might think, oh yeah, this got filmed like it looks like New York because of all the buildings and stuff. These times it's somewhere up in Scotland, but there's something called special effects. So you know, you've got the green screen behind the scenes. A lot of Games of Thrones was actually filmed in Scotland. So because there's a lot of like open space, so it's easier to set up, and it's cheaper because it's cheaper for some production companies in the UK to film in locations within the UK versus abroad.
Yeah, that's true.
Tax and stuff. So yeah, I wish I was in their budget. That would have been so fun. But no, I haven't. It's always been in the UK.
Any other questions, or do I bring my own question? No? She haven't got a question. Oh, okay, that's fine. Maybe we're a bit shy today.
I think they're just shy.
I don't know. But the funny thing is, after now, they start to ask me a lot of questions, and I said to them, prepare all your questions for the experts. When they come in, I mean, instead of hearing things always from my own perspective.
They'll ask you, and then you could ask me, and then it's like,
okay, that
get the hit or something. I don't mind either way.
That could work. But you did say something which caught my attention. Like when you were in school, you didn't do coding when it comes to ICT. How do you think that can change, really? Because that's really why we're here and trying to not just teach people about programming, coding, modern technology, and how computer works, but also to raise awareness, because we find that especially in this side of the world, we are really behind. How do you think that would change?
Very behind. It's actually it's insane because when I googled my job role and I googled it against like American companies, I would be earning like 3 times more than what I'm earning right now. Like it's pretty insane. When you look at like schools as well in a lot of different other countries, there's like a set curriculum for computer science. Like the country actually recognizes that coding is actually a skill, and I think people underestimate how many skills you can learn in the tech industry that are actually valuable for where the world is heading.
Yes,
we're
definitely.
in the digital era now. Everything's happening online, and this lockdown, this pandemic has shown that even more. Less than 5 years ago, people thought, oh yeah, if people work from home, they're not doing any work. But now there's studies to show that it's actually the opposite.
Yeah,
people
that's
are spending
true.
more time on their desks working than when they're in the office. A lot of things like that, like there's a lot of ignorance around what programming or tech in general actually is, and that's where you get situations where it's very male dominated. The company that I'm working at, there's over like 90,000 employees, and only 5% of them are black, or less than 20% are women, because there's a big gap within the education space to begin with. Skills
actually
like tech or ICT
that
or graphic design, it's not valued.
That was one of my questions.
Shortage of jobs.
That was one of my questions. So carry on.
The jobs are there, but the people in this country can't take those jobs because they don't have the skills. They don't have the skills that's needed. So there's actually a big demand in the tech industry for these roles, and that's why you get a lot of people from abroad, because they have to fill up these spaces. And I think the issue is that schools are lacking in funding. Like there's been a lot of cuts to school funding. So it's not necessarily the fault of teachers or anything. It's just more on a government level, local level. Like there's not enough funding. There's not enough education towards for children to learn what coding actually is. And I also do think it's dependent on different areas, because I'm not in London at the moment, and the local community here, things like coding, things like programming in general, different tech jobs, it's actually quite valued in schools. Because when I was in the office, a lot of school kids that were like in the neighboring areas of the site, they were coming in very regularly and getting like, introduction to computing, functional programming, robotics. So it's also a matter of location, because I know for a fact that certain parts of London where schools are already underfunded, there's a huge community of underprivileged families. Like that's also an issue that comes into it, and I think that's something that needs to change. A lot of companies now are realizing this is the cutoff where the diversity gap is widened. It's starting at education level. I find it so crazy, like how I personally think if it was up to me, I would want to teach these skills to primary school kids, as in like 7-8-year-olds, because there's a lot. When I put together my Google Doc for children and parents, there's parents that are messaging me like, oh, my 5-year-old, she's understanding what functions are, like, and that's kids at 5. You can pick up like concepts at a very young age, but that's not fed into the education system.
That's so true.
Which is a huge loss for the government. It's a huge loss for the country, because these jobs are generating money and it's helping the economy, but it's just not seen as a valuable skill. It's only just starting to become a thing. I feel like when you look at countries like America and Canada and all these other nations, like they're miles ahead in comparison to the UK, and that's filtered throughout, like education, jobs, grad schemes, internships. That's where I think needs to be tackled first, at education level, so primary school level. So I hope in the next few years we can push for that.
Well, we're hoping so. I think that's why we do have someone who is in the educational industry coming in next week, because we do understand that this is what led to this revolution of teaching children all about computing and all that. We found out that in schools they do more like they just have a software where you go to, especially most schools use, is it the Purple Mash? And it's more like you go and then the software teach you. So whether you get anything out of it, It's up to you. Whatever you see, there's what you get. And that's not that there's no one trying to like drive these things to the children. We know it can be daunting, really daunting, learning programming language, like we can see in the classroom. A lot of us say it is really hard, and I don't blame them, because yeah, it's going to be hard at first, and it does take a lot of encouragement to make these children do these things. Sometimes I even have to bribe them with Roblox, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I just feel like I think that's just partly because not enough is done to connect the tech world with what kids are engaging with in everyday situations. Like when you're going on your iPad or you're going on your phone, or even when like children are engaged with tech, it's just the older generation don't really know how to bridge the gap. I feel like there's a lack of accessibility, and that's something that's talked about a lot in the tech industry, like accessibility. But I just feel like it's not, people don't take it that seriously. It's just like a buzzword almost. Because when you've got kids watching, you know, live streams of people playing video games, people playing Fortnite.
Yep, that's true.
Fortnite is built on a lot of programming languages that we use at work.
That's so true. That's so true.
You know, there is a connection there. Like, I just don't think that there's enough effort and there's enough funding. I don't think children are the problem. I just think there's not enough done to bridge the gap. And that's why kids won't engage. Because if you're not giving them a reason to engage, if you're not connecting it with their world, because even though I'm still like in a similar generation, I'm still slightly older, like I'm still 22. Like if I look at my siblings, for example, the way they're interacting with the digital age is so different. If I'm already like starting to feel the shift, I can't even begin to imagine what parents are feeling, let alone grandparents. So I feel like the way the younger generation are also interacting with tech is so different, and I think we're not keeping up with it as much as we should, and that's why it's not even taken seriously enough in schools. People are looking at kids nowadays like, oh, why, you know, there's kids being paid like almost 7 million a year just unboxing toys.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, Ryan Box, yeah, that's true.
An industry in itself. But then the older generation are looking at it like, oh, social media is not a job, or you know, playing games is not a job, but it is.
True.
Like people get paid a lot of money for this. Like it's seen as a career. Like companies work with these people, and I think when the older people are ready to embrace this, then we can like start making progression, because there's a lot of things that like people see as like, oh, you know, if you do hair and nails and you know you make wigs and stuff, that's not seen as an industry. Well, actually, that's not true, because you've got people that work in the film industry that are working on these actors that are worth millions, if not billions, and they make a good living out of it. It's a career, and I think the more we start embracing this, this way of thinking and this way of working, the more we can see like innovation, we can see actual progress.
Definitely.
I feel like we're not embracing the digital era as much as we should. Our generation might be, but the people in power, the people that are, you know, running these companies, the CEOs, they're not. And that's where the problem is, and that's where the gap is. And it worries me a lot, because especially this pandemic where, you know, we're from communities where there's not a lot of funding to begin with. We're from communities where, you know, we're constantly undermined, we're constantly pushed to the side as ethnic minorities. We're not given the same level of opportunity that we deserve.
Definitely.
And so, you know, now there's even a bigger gap with the pandemic where, you know, a lot of access to education, you can see the gap, and the gap is just widening. So part of why I like to do what I do on a personal level is because I want that gap to be closed. And if more individuals picked up on that, then we can actually benefit our own communities. And that's where I see the issues, like just that bridging the gap between the kids and what's actually out there. Because I can tell you now, in the tech industry, especially in this country, there's so much demand. It's just, how can you expect people to know when you're not even showing them where the doors are? It's like, oh, go and find it. The house is there, but I don't know. I've taken
there's no entrance.
The house. So you can't actually enter. But yeah, figure it out though. Still, like, you know, you can't do that to the younger generation. So I feel like that's why I love doing things like this, because I want, if I had someone that explained that to me when I was younger, there's so many things I could have probably done differently, and you know, who knows?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I just want the younger people to, you know, understand that you don't have to be the nerdiest person ever. You don't have to, you know, have a certain strict path. There's so many ways to be creative and to engage with tech and to engage with, you know, academic subjects and still be a really cool person. And it's normal. And the time we're living in right now, it actually promotes it, and you can make a good living out of it. It's just about keeping your head down, pushing it, and being authentic to yourself. And I just want more younger people to understand that. Because nobody told me, I had to figure it out myself.
True. I mean, it's this is an area of discussion. It's a topic that we can go on and on and on and on, and it just would not go away. But it's something. The more we keep raising awareness and everyone doing their own bit in their own little way, the more difference will, or rather, will make a difference in the long run. Especially because you did mention for minorities, and that's really where I'm interested in, because if you notice, even in this country, we have people who are mostly based in maybe not West London, take it more seriously than people
I grew
who
up in East London, so
oh yeah, you understand what I mean. So I mean, it's something we are just encouraging the children, so not only will they see the benefit, but also raising awareness so parents can also like embrace this and say, yes, it's the future. Because if you can afford to buy your child the new Xbox, the new games coming in, the new everything, then you can actually afford to put in a little more effort in
I
teaching
would
them.
also say, don't underestimate the kid that plays Xbox or PlayStation. You can use that to really engage with them, because when you look at people that, play all these Xbox games or play Fortnite, for example, there's so many skills when it comes to actually building those games, designing those characters, and those roles are super in demand, and those are the roles that are being dominated by, a certain demographic, and it's like we're all left behind, and it's like no one's actually given us that heads up, no one's actually given us this insight. But what I'm really hopeful and what I really see changing so far is like how social media, how the digital space is shifting. A lot of us that are growing up and we're getting into these spaces, we're happy to give back to the community, we're happy to like give you guys an insight, tell you guys like this is the reality of it, because we've taken the fall. We've taken our L's, we've learned what we should do or we shouldn't do, and we're still learning, but it's just about like passing that on down. And I feel like teachers are in a very interesting situation right now, because you guys are also trying to keep up and you guys want to engage with your students, and there's not a lot of funding and you guys are getting screwed everywhere, and it's like, you guys are stuck in an impossible situation at this point. So I think like from my end, the least I can do is like give you guys an insight and give you guys the heads up, like this is what it's actually like, and just share what I know. I like to document what I learn and then
your
just
journey.
passing it down.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I would like to see more companies take that approach in the future.
True.
So that's how I see it.
It's really I wish you had actually come next week, because we're having the lady who is in education coming in next week. So maybe we can actually speak and appeal to her, so when she goes to her office, she can now talk with the powers that be. But be that as it were, it's really a good thing, and thank you very much for taking your time to come out and speak to us. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but we are short of time, and I'm sure they have actually learned a lot from this conversation. We actually have the lovely Tracy, who hasn't had the time to talk, so I don't know what we're going to do with that, because Amina was just running with it, and we just couldn't put a break on it, because it was just it was just so juicy.
That's fine. I'm not.
So I think we're gonna have to reschedule with Tracy, because she is the AI guru, and then we've been talking about AI lately in class, and how everything works, modern technology and all that, machine learning, data science, and they're getting an understanding of these things. You did say talked about computing and how it works, how computer science works. Pardon me. These are the things we also teach them, and even though it's taking time, it's a gradual process, but they are catching the concept, and that's all we need, really. So I really think you did also mention about the gaming. We do game development, and we use that as a bait. So we say we're going to be we're going to be doing if it's Minecraft education, or Minecraft or playing, or Roblox, whatever it's we do that one, we play, and then we learn, but it then gives them a better perspective of this thing, and it also helps them engage, because now we're not only only consumers, but then again, they start to learn how this technology works, how to learn to make their own. Because like, when now you have played the game, can we criticize it? How will you make it better? Sometimes they say, oh, this game is rubbish. I like, well, fair enough, make your own. Because if you think it's not good enough, then there's something missing there. But most times we struggle with programming when we come to the back end. I really struggle with that. So I want you to like maybe kind of encourage the children and say something about them, about it, to like boost their learning. I don't know, because when it comes to them programming, there is always lots of lots of excuses they pull out from the book. Oh, my internet's gone. Oh, I cannot hear you. Especially with this virtual learning, you cannot actually get hold of them. We can only get connected, and then again, once they disengage, it's a problem. So it's not like you can there's a point you can get to, and all you can do is just encourage them and use this bait. So what do you have to say to the children who are in the classroom today? I know not all of us are here, and for some reason some of us are stuck in Teams, and I don't even so what is your encouragement to them, especially when it comes to learning the back end? Because you do the front end as well, and the back end, which, by the way, a good number of us enjoy the front end, but when it comes to the back end, then you see the long face coming out. Do I have to? So yeah, it's a journey that is interesting, but we have to take it one step at a time. We have to encourage ourselves. So what do you have to tell these young ones here?
I mean, I can give an example. Like, okay, think about your dream car, for example, or just anything that you really like. I'm going to give an example of a dream car because the best way to like explain how the two link. So you've got your front end. So you're designing the seats because that's how the user's going to be sitting on there, driving. You're thinking about the steering wheel, how to make it nice and make the journey smooth. You're thinking about the windscreen, like, do you want it to be a certain width? Do you want it to be a certain length? How would you like to optimize it? Do you want the windows to be tinted? Like, the glitz and glam side of things. That's the front end, because that's how you're trying to make the product look.
Yeah.
Then when you lift up the hood, you've got the engine, and that's how it functions. That's how it works. So now you're thinking, okay, what if I wanted to make this car faster? What if when I switch on my car and I start accelerating, I wanted to make that process faster? What could I add to the functionality or to the engine or whatever it is to make that happen? What instructions do I need to give to the engine, or how it interacts with, from the moment I switch on the car? What do I need to tell this car to do, or this feature to do, to get me to what I want in the end? So I try to think of it like that, because programming is problem solving. Sure. You're given a set of instructions. You're giving them a recipe, like, okay, do this, do that, do this. If this doesn't work, maybe try this, or try all of this except if you see this, and then return this to me, and I want to see if it works. I want to see if this is what I had in mind. That's basically what backend is like. You're giving it instructions, you're telling it to do this, you're giving it a bunch of conditions, like, oh, do this if it's that, or do that if it's this. If not, return me this. And ultimately, you just want to see, you want to visualize what you've just what you've instructed the computer to do. I see backend as that way. In relation to data, it's like, okay, I want this piece of data on this row in this column, and I want it to do this. I want you to insert this here in this table, and let me just double check to see if it's in the right table. Return.
Yeah.
Do return or do a print. That's how I understand backend, because I also like front end more, because I'm more creative and I'm more visual.
Yeah.
So backend can be a right pain, but I just boil it down to, here's a bunch of instructions, this is what I want you to do, and if you don't do it, why? I want to know how, I want to know all the conditions, all the possible use cases, all the things that could potentially go wrong, because one thing that users love to do is break things, so I need to cover my bases. And once I'm happy with those conditions, let me just double check, let me just print that statement real quick, let me see what I'm working with. And that's basically the back end. That's how I see it. Like, I'm just giving it a function. Like, if I was to relate it to just like the human body, like, you've got the skeleton, HTML, you've got the CSS, what makes you look nice, whether it's your soft glam, whether it's, the drip that you're wearing and all that stuff. And then the organs, my brain, my heart, liver, whatever it is, like that's what's helping me function. And then, whether if you eat like junk food, your body's going to respond to this because the input that you've given it is not exactly nutritious. So this organ has to work this way when this kicks in, or your brain has to think about this if it sees this, or if it feels that, or if it reacts to this. So that's basically conditions. Like when you drink water, your brain is like, wait, someone's drinking water, therefore I need to kick
to do something
this
with them.
organ in. My body has to work this way, and as a result, this person is hydrated. Return, hydrated, body feels good. Like I try to think of it in that way, like it's just a bunch of instructions, and the way it interacts depends on the condition that you give it in. So when it comes to like games, you want this person to, tap this little box to give you, I don't know, this tool or this weapon that that's going to help you level up. And if it does this, great, I can move on to the next level. If it doesn't, game over, I have to restart that level. So that's how I see the back end and how it interacts with what you guys see.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, I like to give weird examples.
I know, but that's fine because
the
the examples help them understand it better. So for those who are struggling with coding, especially, what is the encouragement you have for them today? Because I know lots of them like, it's just too hard, Mace, I can't cope, and I'm like, okay, take a break and we do something, maybe animation, or we play games which they like, and then we'll come back to it because you can't do without it. So what sort of encouragement, or if you can mirror yourself, because obviously you're still very fresh in the industry, and they are learning these things at this age, and we've got the youngest from 8 to 15 there. So what would you tell them? What would you tell them? Like, that's yourself, right? How are you going to like to be able to like withhold the stress which they're having to go through when it comes to learning programming?
Oh gosh, I run into errors all the time. Like, it's so frustrating because there's times where you're looking at your code and you're like, I actually don't want to do this, and you just want to throw your laptop away, just like, screw this. But normally when I run into errors, I see it as like, what is it that I'm trying to do? And I actually write it out step by step. I want to do this so that it does this and it returns this. Like, just writing like plain English. Like, don't even think about the code. Just think about what you are trying to achieve. And then once you do that, break it down, because I think a lot of people underestimate how some coding languages are quite readable. They're quite human readable. So when I'm actually building a feature at work, the first thing we do is write something called pseudocode, which is not the actual code itself, but it's the steps that you're writing to achieve what you're trying to do. So my best tip will probably do that. Like, what is it that you're trying to do? What is it that you're trying to achieve with this piece of code? Like, are you trying to return a number? Are you trying to return a string? Are you trying to, get this to do that? Like, what is it that you want to do? So move away from the code itself and the little errors, because a lot of the times you'll be surprised how small the errors actually are. And when it comes to like understanding coding and stuff, like, you've got to understand, like, it's a different way of thinking to what you might be used to
logical
doing.
thinking.
So because coding is literally like, you have to approach it from a problem solving perspective.
True.
So just think about like, how do I want to solve this? What is it that I'm trying to solve? What is it that I'm trying to do? And then when you come back to it, it's like, okay, now you're coming at it from this perspective. I'm going to try and approach this. And if it doesn't work, try again. And if it doesn't work, literally, I do this at work to this day. I literally copy the error, stick it in Google. Someone's already probably solved it. And I'm just going to look at it, copy, paste, back into the code, adjust it a little bit so it fits into what I'm trying to do. Boom. That's literally like at least 70% of my job.
Okay.
Because you run into so many errors, and sometimes it's like, I don't know what's wrong with this, and my head hurts. So let me just copy the error, bang it on Stack Overflow or Google, problem solved. Because you'll be like, the problem that you're having with your code, I promise you, thousands of people online have the same problem.
True.
So why should I come? I can't come and stress myself now.
No.
Let me just go Google, paste, copy, come back. There's nothing wrong with that.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go on, Tracy.
Because when you come across bugs and maybe don't get frustrated, because that's actually the way you learn.
exactly.
That's it's good to make mistakes and stuff like that, and then you can you would see normally your program will tell you where the problem is. And before I
True.
used to look at that, I used to be so frustrated and like, oh, yeah, I'm changing stuff. But when
It's done.
when you take your time, you will actually see that in the console that it will tell you where the line of what happened and why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take your and stuff like it might tell you, oh, well, you didn't close. It might not tell you in simple English that you didn't close something, but then after a while you see that, oh, it's always telling me the same thing when I don't close my bracket and stuff like that. And just like Amina said, when you Google it and post it, you would see that people have also run into this
The same
also.
problem.
So don't get frustrated. It's actually you learning the learning skills. Make mistakes, but actually are going to help you to learn more.
Yeah,
And it feels
just
good when you fix it.
just to add to that, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does.
Let's stress again.
just to add to that, it's a good thing you're learning these skills at a very young age, because say when they get to 22, your age, they would have gone over and beyond that level. So we know technology is it's advancing, it's moving really quickly, so they'll be able to catch up with that pace and become pace setters, so to say. So yeah, it's a very good thing to say to the children, and to encourage them. I know some people are tired now because we end at 12, but I want to really.
Lunchtime. I'm not gonna lie. Even me, I'm thinking about food, so I don't blame the kids. There's nothing wrong with that, guys.
I'm sure we're going to do this again, because it's really, really, really fun. Even if it's not on the children's level, maybe just come together and champion the way forward, especially when it comes to like bringing that knowledge down, whether it's from the industry level down to the children's level, or from the academic level, those in the university down to the children level, so they can embrace these things. And the more they see it, the more it becomes a second nature to them. You did say something,
Yes.
Amina, said when you were growing up, you didn't know what you wanted to do. So imagine the children in this class being exposed to technology, doing things like this. It's something they're going to pick up. Oh, I want to be a software engineer. I remember when we were going into university, some people were asking, because we did access to IT as a then, we had to go into uni, and then someone says, what is software engineering? And I'm like, okay, if you do not know what software engineering is all about, then what are you actually going to learn? It's like starting from below the level, so to say. So now for them, knowing what software engineering is, knowing what it entails, it gives them a better view of what they're going to be going into. And if it's not for them, then you can maybe go into the film industry, because even in the technology industry, there are different areas you can measure in. You can decide to become a software tester. You can decide to be writing codes, developer, and all that. And you can even decide to be playing games and testing games, because I know we love that one as well. So there are lots and lots of fields in it, and there are things we can explore in it. Our time is fast spent. I don't know if we have to add anything, but I think we have to like rebook this again. And my apologies to Tracy especially, because
That's fine.
I
I was really thinking. I mean, you've done a lot in 2 years from somebody that has. No
I know.
background in IT,
I was going to
Yeah.
say that. I was going to say that she's actually gone in for it, and that tells you when you've got a passion for something, when you put your mind towards something, you will always achieve the dream. Because I want to applaud your strength and everything. You had your eye on the goal, and you have got it, and you're still going forward. And not only have you got to that level of getting into the industry really quickly, you're able to squeeze out time from your busy schedule to come and talk to us. That is something we really value, just to let you know, because we reached out to a good number of people, and not everyone saw the need. Some people are so busy, but then again, it's the little nugget you give to these children, it takes them, or it goes a very long way. So I want to thank you for your time, and I want to applaud you. I'm sure we're going to see you again. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll book this and just have a chat like grown-ups, and how things can go forward. It's really a very interesting time. And I know a good number of the children have dropped off. I can see some saying they're hungry in the chats and they're off. But can we say thank you to our guest, Tracy? I will be speaking to you. My apologies, but maybe we're gonna have to put you in.
I learned a lot, and it was really very engaging. So
for next week, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, we can squeeze you into next week, and because we really want to know a lot about AI. That's what we dealt with this week. Yeah. So yes, it's a good time, and when you gather together and share knowledge, you learn from each other. Peer-to-peer mentoring, we call it, and it's been a very great time for me. I must say this has been, it's a very good end to my week. So it's a highlight for me, and it's something I won't forget. So yeah, thank you guys for coming to talk to us, and we really do appreciate. On behalf of the children, who most of them have gone, I want to say thank you very much. Ash, can we say thank you to them? Hello, Ash, are you still there? So what do you say to our guest? Thank you.
It's cool. As long as, even if it's one kid that's picked up something new, or you've learned just like one new bit, I'm happy with that, honestly.
I know they have picked things, but just like we know how they work. Once it is 12, some of them are just looking at the time and then they just go because they're like, okay, my contract with
I
you.
don't blame them. I was already thinking about what I'm having for lunch, so
my contract with you is terminated. So we try to like give them a lot in a very short space of time and then keep repeating it until it sinks in. But thankfully, it's doing the job, and we
I've been
know.
posting loads of stuff on my channel anyway. So
yeah, we'll develop with Amina.
I've tried to make it as accessible, like even if you have students that have special needs, if they're deaf.
Yes.
Like I've been revamping my channel so that
that's
kids
interesting.
that use sign language can also access it, because that's another thing. Like I push for a lot, like accessibility. I understand like it's a very big industry. There's so much information that even I'm still like trying to get my head around. So stuff like this is like it's an introduction, and it's something that I want to do as an ongoing thing. It's not just like a one-off, like, okay, I've spoken to kids now.
Bring it on.
I want it to be like a process. So,
okay.
It doesn't bother me either way, like, because at some point, like, even if it's done in nothing, like, I'm sure it's at least done, like, giving them something new to learn that they probably wouldn't have picked up on, or they wouldn't be aware of.
So true.
That's more than enough for me, honestly. Like, it's fine.
I mean, I love the heart, the heart of giving back. That it's something you cannot really repay, but it is immeasurable. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for your time. And I'm very sure we'll see you again soon, because it's no point taking the bar high and leaving it hanging. We've got to really take it on now. All right, thank you so very much for your.
Are you on LinkedIn? You're LinkedIn now too. I'll check you out on LinkedIn.
Don't worry, I'm gonna be giving you her link, and then hopefully we're gonna be linked all again together in another episode. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. It was fun today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Love you all. Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Have fun.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh yes, sure. we know how that works, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
have a nice weekend.
Okay then.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
All right then. Thank you very much.
Bye,
bye. Oh, that was lovely.
Bye.
Okay, Tracy, I'll get back to you and we'll discuss on that, yeah? But until then, I'll see you guys later. We can go on to Teams Ash. I'll see you later then. Yeah, bye now. Thank you. Ash is waiting to play Jailbreak.